welcome back to Unloaded and Uncovered podcast with a brand new episode. Me, your host, Magda Desir. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Unloaded and Uncovered podcast. Do not forget to follow and like us on Facebook, Unloaded and Uncovered, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, hit the notification bell so you can get more updates and more interviews and more episodes on the podcast. All right. Thank you. So today I have another guest. Hey, Robert, how are you?
I'm absolutely fantastic, Magda. Thank you for asking. How are you?
Oh, it's Friday. So
Yeah.
weekend is here. Next week is my birthday. So, I'm cool. I'm doing
Awesome.
I'm doing real well. So where are you at currently? I know you're East Coast.
Yeah, currently I reside in Southwest Florida, but I'm originally from South New Jersey.
Oh, you from South New Jersey?
Yeah, right across the bridge from Philadelphia.
My family on the East Coast. I don't know if they're South New Jersey, but I know I think they're North. Newark? Is Newark North?
Yeah, okay. Newark's north. So Newark and, Northern Jersey, they tend to relate more to New York City. Everything that needs to get done, they're traveling there. South New Jersey, a lot of times you tend to see Philadelphia Eagle fans, people who like to eat a lot of cheesesteaks because we're constantly going over that bridge. The good thing about South Jersey that I liked growing up was that I was equally distant from Philadelphia and Atlantic City. So I could kind of go where my mood took me as far as entertainment.
Got you. Yeah, they're over there. And I have family in New York too. So I've been on the East Coast and whatnot. But anyway, so Robert, let's begin. Tell us about who you are.
Well, that's a loaded question. We could be here the whole episode.
That's fine. But
to give a gist, I am just a man who, for a long time, lived in a way that was not good for me or anybody. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I was very conflicted by negative emotions and thoughts constantly. That negative chatter mixed with a lot of, I guess, maybe trying to fit in as a youth. It really was a recipe for disaster for me, and then you combine that with not a lot of positive role models. So I lived that way for a very long time. And those things that I just spoke of led me down a very dark road of drug addiction, narcissism, and then eventually prison. So I did 6 years in state prison. And fortunately for me, it was one of the few people who actually got rehabilitated in prison. It was by no effort of the state. I got lucky, or by the grace of God. I met a Buddhist gentleman that worked in the library, and he started introducing me to some Buddhist scriptures. I had nothing else to do. I was in maximum security prison, so it was just me and the four walls. I started reading this scripture. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. Eventually, prayer came into it. It's kind of a little bit of a longer story. I'll go into it if you would like me to. But those three keys is what unlocked me and who I am and what I'm supposed to be doing here. All of a sudden, I had this newfound clarity on life. And that clarity enabled me to manage those emotions and thoughts that were constantly, going through me. Pick what was good, attach my emotions and energy to that, dismiss what was bad, what was not beneficial for me and everyone else. And you see it as I get to going, it was just a spark that illuminated my life. Those three things. That's why I talk about them all the time. Prayer, yoga, and meditation. And when I started praying, I had a very difficult time with God because my life, a lot of it was self-inflicted, but was very bad. I seen terrible things. I was involved in terrible things. I didn't have a strong sense of God or even the possibility that there could be one. But my life was awful. Everything that I had done up to that point did not work. I seen people who prayed, and I thought, hey, their life is better than mine. You don't know it all, Robert. Maybe you start taking ideas from other people that seem to have more together than you instead of listening to these bums on the street, right? So I began prayer. And as I began prayer as an atheist. I did not believe. But one thing I know is that it felt so good. It was a release out into the universe letting get rid of my guilts, my fears, everything that made me anxious, all my goals, all my hopes, all my dreams, just putting it out there to the universe. It was such a release. It felt so good that I continued to do the practice. So as I was doing it as more of a technical practice, like meditation or breath work, God made himself, itself, universal energy, whatever you want to put your label on it, made himself very much present in my life. And I have accomplished miracles of which I could not have even imagined in my former life.
That takes a lot of skill. I'm not gonna lie. That takes a lot of skill. I know you said you had time. You ran into, it was an officer that practiced Buddhism, or it was another inmate?
No, it was a guy who had 25 years in. He was a lifer. And I guess, you're there for a long time. You'll eventually get a good job. There are a few, but if you're there long enough, you'll land one. A library is one where you're not in your cell all day. You have a little bit of freedom. You get a little bit of better food, things like that.
Yeah.
And so he had worked his way into that position. He was the librarian, in essence.
Yes.
But you
Okay.
got another inmate that had found Buddhism, and it had helped him manage what he had to go through in that long prison sentence.
Goodness. Jeez. So, okay, if you don't mind me asking, I'm ignorant to the whole prison jail thing. You're like the second person I had that this person had a short stint in jail over her lover. But what is life like in prison?
Well, it's not like the movies. I mean, the the settings are. I mean, the things that you see, the places that you see in movies, the degradation, the dirt, the filth, the scary metal, concrete, dark, damp. All that is actually very, very spot on. What I think that they obviously boost up the dramatic sense of, whether people are getting abused or, so much just uber violence constantly. Those things do exist in certain facilities,
Right.
but it's not as every day, day to day. That's just normal business as you would think. There is an animalistic quality that you have to tap into to survive and even thrive because resources are limited.
Yeah.
You're dealing with it, with you're a man or woman, whatever prison you're in, you're dealing with people that have been through a lot. They're tough. They know how to get what they need to get. And you really have to clamp down on certain characteristics of who you are. If you're coming from the street, if you're an addict, if you're a gambler, if you're a guy that talks a lot, certain things like that, you have to tone down. You have to be careful, not because you're scared, but because that information then can later be used against you. So I went in with a very stoic mentality of keep my head down, keep my mouth shut, and working out and training. So every day I'm in the yard, I'm training, I'm working out. I spoke very little. And because of that, I had very little problems. With the police and with the other inmates, I kept my head down. I worked out. I read books all day. And then as we spoke about, I got into my practices and I really eliminated that aspect of prison life because that's where you can really get into trouble. If you gamble, if you borrow, if you talk a lot, if you mess with the police, like there's different things, there's rules to it. I don't suggest anybody take their time to learn or have to use the skills to navigate.
Goodness. That, again, I'm not about that life. I'm not about that
Nope,
prison life.
don't be.
So well, I'm not a ride or die. Just for anybody listening, if you are doing something really stupid on these streets, I am not going to ride or die for you. Just want to preface and say that. So when you started to practice the meditation and prayer and things like that, how hard was it for you to believe in something you could not see, feel, hear, touch, taste?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely valid. And I think it's something that kept me away from it for so long. It was, although I was in the streets and I was not doing things that were, righteous, I still was logical. I was smart.
Mhm.
And so I really have a tendency to poke holes in anything. that's how I navigated the street. I could see nonsense. I could pick it out. And whether I'm doing it in front of you or in my own mind, I'm poking holes in everything that's happening, everything that's saying. I'm understanding that it could be all sorts of different ways. So that, although it is a strength for me now in navigating my life, it was a weakness in that respect. It kept me back. But what I could tell you is something that I read from the Buddha is what really changed it for me. And he says, don't do these things because I'm telling you to do them or because you look up to me as some God. I don't. I'm not even a Buddhist. I used some Buddhism philosophies to really radically transform my life. But he says, don't do them because I tell you to do them. Do them because if you do them and they make a difference in your life, then you'll continue to do them. So very early on for meditation, I realized I'm happier today. I'm less angry. I'm less fearful. I'm less anxious. And I'm in the space where I'm in and I'm feeling this way. So I knew I was on to something.
Right.
And then when I started doing the yoga, I actually had one of my cellmates ask me this question out of respect. It wasn't anything negative. He says, why, you do that yoga all the time. Why do you do it? And I had a hard time answering. It took me about 30, 45 seconds. And I go, I feel closer to God when I do it. And that's just how I felt. It could be not even true. And that's something that I talk about quite a bit as well, is like attaching ourselves to meaningful things in our life that help us navigate successfully and help us be happier and more prosperous. It doesn't have to work for everybody. It doesn't have to be the thing.
Right.
And then you can always tweak and adapt and adjust. So because I noticed the difference right away, I didn't have to see it or feel it or touch it. I knew within my body and my mind that it was a game changer. And it is. I practice still to this day, every day.
Are you still practice yoga?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't go a day or two without it. I'll start getting a little sore and,
That's dope because I had a professor on here and he talked to me about how he practiced laughing yoga or something like that.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Okay,
I've
so
never done it.
I've never done it either. I was supposed to tap into it to research it, but it seems like it's pretty common. It seems like it's common to tap
I
into.
heard about it in a speaking class. I was taking an influential speaking class, and the guy was saying that if you're not in the mood to speak, do this laughing exercise. And he's doing it, and it just was utterly ridiculous. But when he explained it, it made some sense that you'll feel so silly, it'll shake you up and get you out of. So it is a thing. And he said in that video, he says it's quite more common than you think. So I believe that.
That's you don't find too many men tapping into yoga because I feel like they think that it's very feminine or spreading your legs or holding poses like that, it makes them feel more feminine. Do you think that you feel that way, or does that make you feel like, oh, I'm tapping into my feminine side or whatever? Do you see a balance there, or are you just like, whatever, I'm just gonna do it because I like it?
No, God bless you for asking this question because listen, sometimes when you get past a certain point, you don't address common threads like that. That's a very common thread that I don't always mention. Here goes the thing. Us as men, as masculine powers in this world, we are strong. We could be resilient. We could be leaders if you tap in the right way. But you're never going to be fully successful until you do. If yoga is even tapping into the feminine side, which I don't believe that. Once you do need to tap into the feminine aspect of who you are, because we all have that duality within us.
Yes.
And it's also more evident when you find your mate. Because if you choose wisely, your man will strengthen you and your woman will soften you into this perfect, powerful being. So as a man, you could be strong, fiery, as leader-like as you want. Until you tap in, man, to that divine spirit, that feminine divine spirit, you're not going to be complete and you're not going to be as powerful. And that's just facts. I mean, the biggest, strongest alpha male has to open himself up to some aspect of the receptivity of the divine feminine, because we're so hard-headed in our masculinity. We're men, we're leaders, we know what we're doing, that we neglect some of the strongest tools that we have. I don't mean to call women tools, but their opinions, what they have to offer, my woman is equal within my household, and that's because she's smarter than me. I'm not no fool. But when it comes to balancing budgets, I do that. When it comes to managing households, I do that. And we work together in that way. It's that perfect combination of the masculine and feminine that truly creates the power. That's when you form like Voltron and can take on the world, because that's how we can take on the world in a family structure. That's why it's under attack. Because as a family, if you produce a harmonious environment to then create amazing children that will then go off onto the world and do wonderful, great things, when they attack that family structure, they're attacking our whole stability as individuals. To move past that into the yoga phase, we as men have to get past all that macho nonsense, because once again, you're neglecting a total aspect of something that could level you up. Yoga's leveled me up on every level, because there's breath work, there's cold water, there's different types of yoga. And
Yep.
I'll tell you something right now, for anyone who think, oh, that's feminine, I'm not going to do that, I'm not going to spread my leg, whatever. I was doing yoga in the yard, man, with killers every day. Downward dog, upward dog, in the yard. And you know what they said to me? One of them came up to me at the end. He says, I see your workout routine. It's got a lot of yoga in it. He goes, I like that stuff. It looks like it works. Now, one of them guys, the toughest guys, hard as nails, walking around the yard, tattooed up, ever said a word to me about my yoga practice.
I'm floored. I'm floored.
It's real, baby.
I would love to
When
see
you're
that.
authentic, they have to respect it. When you're truly you, when you're truly authentic, they must respect it. I swear, it all boils down to that.
But you said a word there when it comes to the family structure and dynamic. Like, that's a word. And I think, I don't know what's going on in today's world, but so do you actually go out and, do speaking engagements and things like that?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's why I'm here. Because whether I'm getting compensated or not, I want to spread this message. I want to spread this message of love, peace, joy, self-improvement, and the rebuilding of self-independence, of independence on you, but then taking that to build your family structure and emphasizing the importance of marriage and family and having children. And I do it every week on my podcast, Creating Greatness. We talk about family. We have how to build a harmonious household, how to remain in good chemistry with your wife, how to raise healthy children. All these topics are on the podcast. But then I even take it a step further, is I'm a volunteer here in Southwest Florida in the prison system. And I go to the fellas and we go directly in the dark place and we bring the light and we teach these guys there's a different way. And it starts with rebuilding yourself, repairing your relationship with your wives, with your moms, with your kids, because that really is where it all starts. And everything that I'm doing through the volunteer work and through the podcasting and through the guest appearances is taking me closer to that end goal. Well, not end goal, but that one big goal of mine that you're speaking of is getting sought after. Like, hey, you got a good message. We want you to come here. Well, it's hard. It's difficult. And I'm working towards it every day.
Oh, yeah. Keep working towards it. I love it, because this isn't talked about enough. A lot of people sometimes are scared of their own story. They feel like they've been victimized and they don't know how to, come forth and talk about it. But what you're doing is giving people a whole different aspect and look into how everyone's life is different. Like, you have a very tumultuous background, but you flipped it around and turned it into something very powerful and substantial. You know what I mean? And so I also wonder, do you still keep in contact with the inmates at the prison that you were?
Oh, you mean where I was incarcerated?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you don't?
Unfortunately, when you reach a space in life and you acquire so many things, and I don't mean money, I mean when you acquire peace, when you acquire love, when you acquire joy, and then you have family, you now have something that you want to protect, right? Okay. So early on in my life, I didn't have any of those things. I had nothing to protect. It was all on the line. I was out there with whoever. But now that I have all those things, I will not let anyone jeopardize my peace. So when I got out, I hit the ground running. I made a rule. I'm not going to associate with anyone who does drugs. I'm not going to associate with anyone who is involved in criminal activity. I'm not going to associate with anyone who is constantly involved in promiscuous behavior out there, in the street. Fortunately for me, I had no friends left. So sometimes it could seem lonely,
Yeah.
but then when you put in the work, I'm apologetic that I can't remember who said this. I think it's Dostoevsky says, if you diligently do your work alone, your people will come. And
Yep.
that's what happened for me. I made the transition. I was a little bit alone, but I put in the work. And then now, because you love yourself, you're at peace with yourself, you're now radiating these things into the world. Instead of radiating misery and sadness and anger and frustration, you're radiating love and peace and joy. And guess what? Those things come back to you. It's one of those universal laws. And within months of me getting out and finding this peace, I found my wife. And, we were on a speed train. We had a kid. We got married. We had two more boys. And, we moved all over the country. I've been to Alaska, Hawaii, Arizona, Texas. We traveled to Costa Rica, Jamaica, all these different places together as a family. And then we decided to settle down here in Southwest Florida. So it's literally been amazing whirlwind of a ride, especially when I admit that I just came home in 2017. So, we're only 5 or 6 years into this thing, man. And took it so far, and I'm excited to see where I'm going to go.
Wow. In 2017, you came home. I was going to ask, like, how did you meet your wife? Because you talked about the whole family. I'm like, how did he meet his wife? So how did you meet your wife?
Well, here goes the thing. When I was doing this 6-year bid, about 4.5 years in, I got paroled. While I was out on parole, I met my wife. We had interacted a little bit, but she was not beat for my nonsense. I ended up going back and then serving the remainder of my time, which then equaled 6. But when I got out, because I was doing the right thing, displaying the right behaviors, we started reinitiated contact, and she was willing to proceed with me because she's seen a change within me. And we took it and, just hit the road, and we've been going ever since.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. What is one thing that you would tell younger Robert?
Man, everything that I've been saying, I think it simplifies it for a lot of people is, if you focus on the person that you needed, that's the person that you need to be, So everything that I develop, even with my boys, like I remember like me going to my dad and going, "Hey dad, will you play this sport with us?" And him, my knee, my back. When my kids do that to me, it doesn't matter how I feel unless there's something more important for them as a family that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, let's go. Let's throw the football around. Let's do this. And the things that I say to them when problems come up in life are things that I needed to hear, man. Because I didn't have anybody telling me none. Nobody was telling me what a man should stand for in this world. I thought going out and getting some fancy rims and a gold chain and a couple girls, I thought that was the epitome of manhood. But what I'm realizing is that's the epitome of boyhood and immaturity. And I stand on that, I stand on that. A real man is a leader. He sacrifices his wants and needs for the greater good. He's a protector. And all those things, material gains will come later. Once you acquire all the skills within your character that you need, you'll get all the material gains. It's a byproduct of you fixing yourself. You don't really have to focus on money or your job or anything. You focus on becoming the best, absolute best human being you could be to reach your highest possible potential, and everything else will certainly come. I mean, I'm more comfortable now than I've ever been, and I have not focused on finances whatsoever. I focus on self, building myself up and my family.
That's a word for me, honestly. That one was for me. It's a battle. Yeah, I'm still young, but sometimes, again, we don't have the blueprint on how to focus on ourselves and build ourselves and love ourselves and things like that. So that what you just said was a word for me, possibly for everybody else or anybody else that's listening. But I appreciate that, and I thank you for that because I needed to hear that. So, are there any where can people find you besides your podcast, Creating Greatness?
Oh, that's about it. I mean, I ain't hard to find. I use my Deion Sanders sentence. I'm Creating Greatness podcast. It's on all the platforms. I generally post on Spotify first. They treat me the best. And on social media, I do a lot of social media content. Like I guess it's like snippets from the podcast if you
Yeah.
don't want to listen in for an hour. So it's good. And my name on all social media is Kingacomebakks, obviously, because of everything that I've come back from. And it's spelled Kingacomebakks. Kingacomebakks on all social media outlets. You can find me on Creating Greatness podcast at Gmail. If you have anything you want to talk about or anything that I said here. And I really appreciate you for having me on, Magda. It was absolutely a wonderful conversation.
It was. I liked it. I appreciate you telling your story and coming on and sharing your story. Everyone that has came on has taught me so much, has literally poured into me without them even knowing. Some of the things that has been mentioned, I've been noticing a common thread going across is like self-love mindset, meditation, prayer, connecting with the universe. Whatever you put out, you get back. It's been a whole bunch of that, and everyone that has come on so far has been great, and I truly, truly appreciate it. I love all of you guys' success. I just admire everyone's tenacity and growth, and and just giving everybody a word, because whoever needs it's gonna find it, gonna see it, and they're gonna love it. So I really thank you for coming, Robert. Like, I appreciate it so much.
No, thank you so much. I think that it ends up happening in the podcasting world is where if nothing else happens, if
Yeah,
nothing else, and there's many other things happen, the connections that you make, the conversations that you have, the lessons that you learn from each other. This is the way that we build
yeah,
in a bigger sense, not just a family, in a community.
yeah.
And once again, absolutely a pleasure. And we'll have to have you on Creating Greatness.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the episode. I thank you for watching, tuning in, whether you are watching video or listening, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Unloaded and Uncovered Podcast. Find us on Facebook, Unloaded and Uncovered. Follow and like. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more upcoming episodes, more upcoming videos, more interviews, more updates. Hit that notification bell, like, share, comment, and I'll see you all next week with a brand new episode. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care. Bye.